everyone, it's a hot mess or Brittany because I do also have a normal name. I wanted to come on here and chat with you guys about mobility aids. This is going to be the new start of my YouTube channel. And I know that there's fancy editing and all that sort of fancy stuff that goes along with YouTubing nowadays. And I'm just not having it. So I'm going to make this as organic as possible. If you know anything about what I do as a multiple sclerosis advocate, writer, and speaker, you know that that's kind of the way I roll with the whole organic transparency thing. So we're just going to jump right into it. So, mobility aids. Maybe you use one, maybe you were told that you need to use one, or maybe you are absolutely terrified of using one. We're going to cover all of that today. So, let's start by talking about the elephant in the room, which is the stigma. The stigma. There's stigma associated with using mobility aids that if you are of a younger generation, it is unacceptable to use a mobility aid because they are specifically designed for the elderly and the older generations, which is complete baloney, by the way. That's not a thing. I was diagnosed with MS when I was 30 years old, had been tripping, falling, running into things, and just not staying quite upright. I was soon told by my neurologist, hey, you might want to start looking into a walking cane or other mobility aids to keep you from landing on your face every hour. So I got on Amazon, as many of us do, and started looking at walking canes. And I was very disappointed in the options that I was finding. I'm like, I'm cool looking. I'm not cool, but at least I kind of think I look cool. I like to use fashion to express myself and be a little edgy. And the options that I were finding on Amazon, for example, were not fitting the bill of something that I would be confident in using. So what did I do, you might ask? I got online, I got on Instagram, social media, and I started looking at hashtag walking cane or mobility aids or cane. And then I found the hashtag babes with mobility aids. And you guys don't even understand how amazing that hashtag is because you see a variety of mobility aids and people using them to not only assist with their mobility, but to empower themselves and express themselves. And that was just amazing, in my opinion. And I was really grateful to have found that hashtag. So, in starting my own exploration, if you will, of mobility aids, I wanted to find something that was going to be representing of me, make me feel confident, and just look cool. So, to name a few, Neo walking sticks, they're based in the UK. Oh, these walking canes, you guys, if you're not familiar with Neo walking sticks, I will put the link in the description. And oh my God, I cannot believe I just said that because this is the first YouTube video that I'm like, the link is in the description. So much fun. But I will put the link in the description. They're fantastic. They're excellent quality. They're sturdy. They're well built. Me personally, I like a walking cane with a little bit of weight to it. Sometimes I feel like the really lightweight aluminum ones, they're just not sturdy enough. They'll either get kicked out from underneath me or I don't know. I feel personally a little bit of weight to my cane just makes me feel a little bit more secure. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. Maybe it's you. Maybe it's just a thing in general. But Neo walking sticks, the versatility of the color options that they have, the style of the handle that they have. If you're somebody that is either newly diagnosed with MS or maybe you have another chronic illness that requires the assistance of a mobility aid, I would highly recommend checking them out. Another good website to check out, and again, I will put the link in the description, is fashionablecanes.com. Super affordable. They have options from aluminum to, oh my gosh, what's the word when you collapse them? Collapsible. So, if you need to throw it in your bag and it needs to be, hidden for whatever reason, or maybe you don't even need it yet. And you're kind of like, projecting, well, I'm going to the museum for 5 hours today. Maybe I'll need it on the fourth and fifth hour. So I'm going to collapse it, put it in my bag, and it's there when I need it. They even have wood options with fantastic sterling silver handles. Sterling silver handles. I have one of those too, and they're so much fun for, it's like a fancy occasion or a fancy night or something like that. So, in short, Do your research, find something that speaks to you and that's going to suit your personality. This isn't like a one size fits all deal in any way, shape, or form. And the reason why I say that is because let's just take eyeglasses, for example. When you walk into your optometrist, there isn't three options of frames. You've got different brands, you've got different colors, you've got different styles, different shapes, different weights, different materials. You have an endless opportunity to choose something that is going to speak to your personality, that's going to look good, that's going to obviously assist with your vision, but is going to make you confident. You're not going to say, you know what, I'll take the ugliest eye frames that you have in the store. We don't do that. Same thing with shoes. They're there to protect our feet. Are we going to pick the fugly ones? Or are we going to pick the pretty ones that are comfortable and prevent us from falling over? Heels are non-existent in my life now, unless it's a teeny little wedge. But pick something that is going to make you feel good while you're using it. If you're not confident in how it looks, you're not going to want to use it. Therefore, the quality of your mobility is going to suffer. That's a no-no. That's a no-no. Getting comfortable using them is something that I get messages quite frequently on, purely for the fact that people are afraid. They're afraid of using them. They're afraid of the, well, what are people going to think? And are people going to stare? I will tell you this right now. People are going to stare at you for a multitude of reasons, many of which may not even be associated with your mobility aid. It could be the t-shirt that you're wearing. It could be the way you do your hair. It could be how incredibly tall you are. Oh my God, have not seen somebody that is 6'5" in my life. They're not staring at your cane. They're staring at the fact that you're like Amazonally tall. I don't know if that's a word, but I just made it a word. So stop looking at the negative and why you're being stared at or why people are judging you. It's not always the negative. But I think that comes along with the natural insecurity that instinctually we have when we are introducing something new into our health journey. And what I mean when I say that is using a cane at 30 years old. I was 30 years old at the time when I started using one to assist on those funky mobility days where my leg wasn't cooperating or my vertigo was just insane. So what I mean when I say that is when we're introduced to something that is not considered normal or frequently observed, it can feel kind of overwhelming and it can feel daunting. And we have that sort of mentality of, okay, I'm not comfortable with this. So that's the vibe that we've given ourselves, is insecurity and fear. So when somebody else is staring at us, that's automatically what we're going to think that they're seeing in us, because we're owning that. We're owning that insecurity and fear. So if somebody's staring at us, all we can think of, they can sense my insecurity and fear, and they feel that way too. And they're judging me now, and now I'm uncomfortable and I shouldn't ever use this again. And I'm just going to fall. No, let's not do that. So what I did, and I wanted to share this with you guys because automatically we get defensive. When somebody's staring at us, we're like, oh my God, what are they staring at? Stop staring at me. We get defensive. We get irritated. We can get easily annoyed and say, oh my gosh, okay, well, what's wrong with my outfit? Why are they staring? Why are they staring? Instead of having that sort of approach, and this may work for you, it may not. I hope it does, but this is what has worked for me. When I first started to use my walking cane and my mobility aids, I use a rollator, a manual wheelchair. Honestly, it just depends on the day. It depends on what the heat is. My body sucks at heat regulation and temperature control. So I vary. But when I started using them, I was using them around people that saw me on a daily basis for years without one. And then all of a sudden it became this, well, what happened to you? And I hated that question. I absolutely freaking hated that question because it had such negative association with it. Well, what happened? Oh, what happened to you? The drama. But I chose, instead of getting irritated and having my East Coast Italian attitude, I approached it from more of an educative standpoint of saying, nothing happened to me. I was just diagnosed with MS. Or, hey, receptionist at the office building I work at that sees me, 5 days a week, all day long. Remember how I always fall down in the hallway, and you guys have it on film? from the security team of me falling multiple times a week. Yeah, that's why I have MS. So making light of it and turning it into just more of like a fluent, organic conversation, it took it to a more honest place, but it also made me own it. So while I was, turning it into a conversation and educating and talking to somebody about it, it made me have more honest ownership about it rather than, having this, oh gosh, they're staring at me and I feel like crap about myself and I'm never going to use this again. It was, this is what's happened. I don't mind sharing it because now they know something and now their perception of, younger generations with invisible illnesses like MS or lupus or whatever has kind of widened. And that's why I do what I do to, widen that perception and to break that stigma that only old people use wheelchairs or canes or if you're in a wheelchair, you have to be paralyzed from the waist down. That is complete and utter crapola. So what about advocating for your need to use them in the first place? Now, this is something that I know a lot of us struggle with is that, what is the word I'm looking for? See, and I'm not going to edit this because this is what happens when you have MS and you have holes in your brain and your cognition just goes right out the door. Other people will be like, oh, let me edit out that error. I'm just going to sit here and own it because I think we have to own the things that are preventing us from living smoothly or living eloquently because it's all crap. But advocating for your need to use a mobility aid in the first place, I think comes down with the point of accepting the fact that you need to and sort of admitting to yourself, that's the word I was looking for, admitting to yourself that you do. You know your body. You know when something is off. You know when your body feels less confident. If you're, I don't know, out all day and you're going to be walking a long time and you're like, gosh, I really have to sit down a lot. I have to sit down a lot. And everybody's, looking at that. I always think of a museum because I'm like, okay, that's a long day with a lot of walking and everybody's kind of going everywhere. So if you're finding yourself like in those patterns of, well, I need to sit down and everybody is over there looking at that exhibit or they're going to go to lunch and I just cannot handle the walk. So I'm just going to sit here and miss out. Why miss out? And that's what I started noticing about my quality of life is that I was having to say no to too many things. And I was putting filters on what my body was capable of doing. And everybody else is still, going about their business. But I was having to take breaks and I was having to say no and I was missing out. So going back, when you start to notice little things like you can't keep up or you're tripping or you're falling or your leg is collapsing. And this all, again, is just related to multiple sclerosis because that's what I'm dealing with. So that's what I share. But I think if you kind of widen the umbrella of the topic, it can be applicable to any illness or disability that requires the use of a mobility aid. But when you start to notice these little changes that your body's making, then you're sort of able to admit to yourself, and it may suck to admit. But again, that's viewing it from a negative standpoint, which I don't like to do because then you're just going to see the negative and it's going to be a crap show. And, it's really hard to get out of that negative headspace. But once you're able to say, okay, I need this, let's get on board with it. That takes you, I think, to a better sense of ownership. And when you have that better sense of ownership in advocating for what you need, I think it allows you to be more confident in anything in the first place. So what if you don't have a doctor that's suggesting it? Look for the little key things. Look for how many times you have to sit down and take a break. Look for how many times your balance is funky. Look for how many walls that you've walked into or how many times in a day your leg just kind of collapses. Or maybe it's not even collapsing. Maybe it's not limb weakness. Maybe it's vertigo and everything is just like moving and you're walking around, life like Jack Sparrow trying to balance. These are all hints that your body is giving you that you need a little bit more assistance and you need that help. And again, if you are thinking to yourself, woe is me, pity the fool, I'm going to come find you and smack you, because that is absolute nonsense. If you need something that is going to better your quality of life, that is a positive thing. That is a good thing. That is something that you want. So don't make me come find you. What about varying between different mobility aids? And the most common thing that I get is, well, people aren't going to understand when I move from a walking cane to a rollator or even a wheelchair. They're going to think I'm faking it. Which is something anybody in the invisible illness or chronic illness community can relate to. I think I can speak for all of us when we've heard the whole, fear associated with it, with, well, they're going to think I'm faking it. And it's like, you know what? Who gives a hoot? I don't care. I think it's ridiculous. But I get it. I get the fear. I get the apprehension between switching from a cane on one day to a roller the next day. And I have friends in my life that say, "Oh, no cane today." And I go, "No, it's a great mobility day." Or, "No, it's really cool today." If the temperature is like anywhere less than 80, I'm going to say less than 75. I lied. 50 to like 65, I'm zooming around like a psycho. But heat, I do not move well in heat at all. It just completely sucks the soul out of me. But when you're navigating through, shifting from a walking cane to a rollator, or maybe it's even a manual wheelchair or a scooter, first of all, I'm coming closer to you because I want to prove a point. There is nothing wrong with that. Okay. That is the biggest thing that I hear of, well, people are going to judge me. People aren't going to understand. It's called invisible illness for a reason, because 99% of our problems are happening on the inside. Spinal cord, brain, lesions, neurological system, shorts in our system. It doesn't matter. It's all invisible. So me personally, what I like to do, instead of, having that automatic defense mechanism, is to try to approach it from more of an educational standpoint. And I know this is going to have a lot of different reactions, because some of you are going to be comfortable talking about it and voicing your opinion. And some are going to be like, well, it's my medical business and that's nobody's business but my own. That's fine. I'm just sharing what works for me. If it works for you, again, awesome. If it doesn't, try something different. Either way. But what I found is, when I sort of broke down that conversation barrier and educated about it and said, you know what? Yeah, some days I need to use a rollator. It helps me when I sit. I have to sit down frequently. The people in your life that have your best interest and support you, they're going to understand and they're not going to judge you. If you've got anybody in your life, and I say this so strongly because I have removed a lot of people from my life because of this reason. They think that it's attention seeking. They think that it is, a great way to get attention. I just said that. I said it different ways, but I said it again. Apparently my brain thinks it's important. And it's disheartening to have, people in your life like that just think that you're doing it for, to seek that pity and seek attention. And me personally, I absolutely loathe pity. I think that is the most like ugly thing that you could ever put on somebody else, is that, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry this happened to you. It's like, I'm not sorry. Does it suck? Yeah, absolutely. But am I sorry about it? No. What am I sorry about? I'm sorry for spilling milk when we just bought a new gallon. That's something I'm sorry for. I'm not sorry for having an incurable progressive illness that means that I have to function differently in life. Can I do anything about it? No. Is there a cure right now? No. Do I live with it every day? Yes. You have to own it. And the more that you own it, I think the more that gives us a space to be more confident about it. Anyways, that was a little tangent. But if you have the people, in your life that are, accusing you of being dramatic and, oh, here she goes again. And oh, it's a rollator day, or oh, she's using a wheelchair now. Those people need to immediately get removed from your Rolodex of friends or family or coworkers, whatever you have in your life. That is complete and utter junk that is not needed. Okay, so we talked a little bit about breaking the stigma, of those mobility aids. Yes, you can be young and need to use them. And yes, you can look absolutely fantastic doing it. And if anybody has anything negative to say, you know what? You have to recognize and validate that you are going through tremendously difficult things. Your body is going through tremendously difficult things, and you are trying the best you can to navigate around the crap and the chaos. So pat yourself on the back and give yourself a little bit of credit there, because that's huge. And give yourself grace. Please give yourself grace. Again, people are going to stare at you for a billion reasons under the sun. People are going to judge you for a billion reasons. The moment that you choose to disassociate the judgment and the staring with something negative, I am telling you, like I know the ink on my body, you are going to feel more empowered and more confident. So, if you have any questions about mobility aids, if you just want to chat about how you feel your process transitioning into using them is, if you've been using one for years and you still feel insecure, please reach out and hit me up, whether it be DM on Instagram. You can contact me on the contact page on my website as well. I do what I do for a reason, and I feel like I have value in a voice in this community, and it is my job to pass it along to you. If you have, questions about where to get a cool looking mobility aid, hit me up. You can take this as far as customizing your own stuff. Like I had an AFO brace a few years ago for a drop foot in my left leg, and it was by Allard USA, and they make amazing products, and they're, super sustainable and amazing quality, but they're all one color. And I'm like, this isn't fitting with me in any way, shape, or form. So I ended up taking it to a local auto body shop, because I'm like, wait a minute, if they can paint cars, they can paint this. And they did. I talked to the owner and said, hey, this is my story. This is what I'm doing. This is what I want to do. Can you help me? And you have no idea how excited they were about taking on that project that they had never done before, because people don't ask. So don't be afraid to advocate for yourself. Don't be afraid to think outside of the box. And again, if you like the way your aid looks, if you feel more apt to make it customized to your personality, you're going to feel more confident. When you feel more confident, you're going to have a better quality of life. When you have a better quality of life, you see where I'm going with this, you can better manage your disease, regardless of what it is. Thank you for listening. Thank you for listening to my organic tangent on mobility aids. I would love to hear your comments. So don't forget to comment below. I feel so weird saying that, because it's so scripted and not organic, but that's what I do. Thanks for listening, guys. Rock your mobility aids. Let them make you instead of break you. Peace out. See you guys next week.